Janelle, you're joining us live today from Dallas, Texas. So thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that the market in Texas isn't really impacted as much as the market here in New York, but I wanted to introduce you to my friends, everyone. We are here with Janelle Rawlston from Compass in Dallas, Texas. Janelle, tell us a little bit about sort of your background. I know you and I are familiar with one another, but for all our friends out there who are joining us for the first time, would love for them just to learn a little bit about you, your background, your experience down in Dallas and the greater metro area.
Absolutely. So my business partner, Judy Parsons, and I actually started in real estate back in 2006 as investors, really buying properties, holding some, really renovating and flipping quite a bit, and formed our corporation together and started doing that. We rode the market all the way down, almost to the bottom, kept going, and then got our real estate license during that time. We sold our last flip in 2011 and got our broker's license, and then kind of toyed around for a little while trying to figure out what to do, and decided in 2014 to go full-time residential real estate. Joined coaching with Tom Ferry, and decided to grow our team. Moved over to Keller Williams, did that for a while, and then we joined Compass in 2018 here in Dallas. And our market is really downtown, straight north. There's kind of like a corridor divided by the major freeways here, and we go straight north, venture out on either side a little bit, and then swing out west over to Las Colinas, South Lake, West Lake, Grapevine, and Colleyville.
Okay, great. Wow. That's a pretty wide area. So in terms of like a radius, what would you say the miles are from one side to the other?
About 15 miles. We don't go all the way to the west, all the way to the east. It gets a little bit different demographics over that way. And it's a little bit more industrial over in that part of Dallas.
Yeah.
So we've really stayed north and then swing out to the west. It's about 15 miles straight north, but we've gone further than that. Everything here is so spread out. So we go way up north to McKinney. So I know you don't know all these suburbs, but they're way out there. It's like an hour and 15 minutes. We've had clients move from here where we are inside the city and decide they want to go buy a 5-acre ranch with horses. And so we help them, move out as far as they need to go.
Sure. Now, having gotten into the business in 2006, more on the sort of investment side of things, what kind of impact did the last recession have on you, both personally and professionally?
It was pretty rough toward the end of, 2010, 2011, coming into holding the investments that we had, and selling the properties that we had renovated. It got really tight, really tough. There weren't a lot of margins to be made there in the end, and it really wasn't a whole lot of fun by the time we got to 2012. This time around, it's a little bit different. I think we're still seeing a lot of activity on the investment side, and a lot of people from other states that we work with that are selling properties like in California, and doing 1031 exchanges, purchasing property here as income generating properties, which there's a lot of advantages to do that.
Huh. And can you tell us a little bit about the advantages and what you're seeing in terms of holding time and return on people's investments on an annual basis?
Sure. Appreciation here is a lot different. Obviously, states like California, probably New York, your property is going to appreciate a lot faster in terms of value. Our normal appreciation here is somewhere between 3% and 8%. Some areas are greater; they're newer. It's got a lot of extra infrastructure there. But average in Texas overall is 3 to 8%. So when you're buying here, you're not buying for, I'm going to buy and hold it for 2 years and make a ton of money. You're buying property here for cash flow. There's a lot of affordability here. So there's a wide range of rental opportunities for people. So we've had people buy multifamily properties here. They've sold, property in California to 2.5 million, come here, bought a 24 unit multifamily property. And it's just a cash cow. It just generates cash flow year over year.
Wow, that's great. I know a lot of my friends and clients are always looking for those cash flow opportunities. So Dallas seems like a great place for that. Now, is that because of a concentration of sort of a broad spectrum of business in terms of generating the tenants for those properties? Are you looking at sort of market rate tenants? Are you looking at Section 8 type of business? What type of stuff are you seeing?
Mostly market rate in those areas. There's not, in our market area on the north side of Dallas where we concentrate, there's not a lot of Section 8 opportunities. Those are going to be primarily on the south side of downtown, moving south into suburbs like Lancaster and further south. Most of our clients that are buying in the northern areas of Dallas, it's market rate, and really counting on the huge amount of growth that is happening in those areas, and the number of people here moving into Dallas, and I mean Texas overall, but Dallas is just the phenomenal number of people moving in here and having to find a place to rent.
Now that's pretty interesting. So I understand that you shifted over from Keller Williams to Compass. Congratulations on that move. I know it was about a year or two ago now.
2018.
Yeah, and so can you tell us a little bit about Compass and the shift from Keller Williams? I know a lot of us in the business often think about making these shifts, and any bumps that you encountered personally and professionally along the way.
Changing brokerage is always an undertaking. Anytime you do something like that, we did it twice. We left a small boutique brokerage when we went to Keller Williams. And so we knew when we made this move, it was going to be even bigger. We loved Keller Williams. There's great people there. They were super supportive of us initially when we decided to, build a team and really embrace that. And we moved to Compass not purely, but a lot of just the reasons that it opened some doors up into the area of the market that we wanted to really expand into, and helped us take advantage of those opportunities. Rebranding, changing everything, changing the way you do everything from top to bottom is always a challenge. But Compass has been a great experience, and they've really helped us do that. We've never felt like we were on our own, like, oh my God, what do I do? It's been a pretty awesome experience from day one.
That's great. Good to hear. I know, Compass is a pretty exciting company. There are a lot of inspiring people that are, on the various teams and in the organization. Starting with, Rob Refkin, of course, and Leonard Steinberg, who I've known my entire career and admire, both personally and professionally. So it's good to hear that your experience has been a positive one so far. So, Janelle, tell me a little bit about Dallas and the market there, a little bit sort of big picture before the pandemic started. So let's say early Q1, January, February, what was the overall temperature there in terms of market activity?
We were poised, our office was poised, really our whole market was poised to have probably one of the best years on record for real estate. Everything was just ticking up way past where we were in 2019. And our team, we had the best year ever for our team in 2019. So 2020 was supposed to be like, rays of sunshine coming down, and it was really, really looking good. So overall, the market here is always strong, but the activity level, both from sellers and buyers, were becoming more aligned. It was becoming a more balanced market, which is better for both sides, better for everybody. Yeah. And, seeing a lot of buyers re-enter the market, and, sellers putting their homes, listing their homes for sale. It was really lining up to be kind of a banner year.
Wow. And so, did you have any deals in contract? Because I know our friends in California in the business, we're talking about things going to agreement. In other words, going into contract, but there's that time when you're in this sort of attorney review inspection period when you can retrade it or renegotiate or get out of it if you needed to. So when did you see the coronavirus pandemic impacting buyers' decisions, if at all?
Well, we have been tracking the market week to week since about, I guess, toward the end of March, mid-March, when we really went into shelter in place. And initially, we saw the biggest drop down in new listings and properties going under contract pretty quickly. We're down about 65% year over year from where we would typically be right now, April of 2019. And so that was almost initially just like dropped off, and things were pretty quiet for a week or two. They come up very little as far as new showings and properties going under contract, but it is starting to increase a little bit because of the lag time with closings. Our closings held steady for about 2 or 3 weeks, and now we're experiencing that dip in the number of closings that are actually taking place. We're down almost that same exact 65% in the number of, to 65% of what we would normally experience for closings.
Wow.
We'll probably roll through that for another 2-3 weeks, depending, because it's starting to uptick on the leading indicators. So the lagging indicators will probably follow suit in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Huh. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't realize Dallas was impacted that much in terms of, the dip in inventory, the dip in pendings, and the pursuant decrease in closing volume.
And I think it really, our brokerage won, and I know several of the large brokerages here, Allie Beth Allman, Abby Halliday, some of the larger RE/MAX brokerages here, really, I guess, impressed on the agents and our whole community that safety and health is our number one concern. And with shelter in place, they really discouraged in-person showings at all. We went totally virtual. If a house was unoccupied, we could put on gloves and masks and take like 1 or 2 clients with us to go see it. And so we kind of did go through a pause. Everybody kind of caught their breath, but it's starting to pick back up now. And we'll see what kind of changes come about in the next couple of weeks.
And so the sellers that you're in touch with and that are still occupying the homes that were either on the market or are planning to come to the market, what are their thoughts as far as prospective buyers coming to see their homes?
Most of them are not real thrilled with having people parade through their house that they don't know. It's just, you just have to err on the safety side. And we're really trying to pay attention to how comfortable our clients are moving forward with that. You can create safety protocols and a list of things that agents and buyers are supposed to do when they come to the house. You can schedule your showings 3 hours apart to make sure there's enough time between buyers to kind of, mitigate some of those safety issues. We've had some sellers say, you know what, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines till June. We've got everything ready to go. We're with you guys. Let's do this, but we want to just sit here for a little bit and figure out what's going to happen. We have some sellers that are like, I need to sell. Let's, do Matterport. We'll do virtual. We'll grab our phone. We'll do a FaceTime walkthrough, whatever it takes. There are agents and people in our market that are going to the house with their buyers and parading through and going and checking them all out. Our office has really discouraged us from doing that.
And do you think that is, specific to Dallas, or is that more of the company's philosophy in the time of, coronavirus?
I think that's really a Compass philosophy. Our team had a phone webinar, whatever, Zoom, with our sales manager on Thursday, and our office is still thinking June 1st. Even if Texas opens back up, Dallas opens up, our office is saying, yeah, maybe June 1st. We're not in a hurry and a rush to get everybody back in the office, and we want to just kind of err on the cautious side.
You know, it's interesting, Janelle, because I saw an article the other day about Zillow telling its employees that they can work from home for the rest of the year. Spoke to a client of mine who was in-house counsel at Goldman Sachs. Goldman told their employees that they're not planning to open back up until October 1st. So I think that a lot of these companies are realizing that in terms of the physical office space, they don't necessarily want to take on the potential risk of having a localized increase in rate of infection, you know, within their office or within their company as a whole. And so they're telling people, hey, you know, we've worked remotely for all this time. Why increase the risk by coming to the office when we can accomplish just about everything that we need to remotely? So, you know, as we're going through this experience, both individually, as a family, as teams, and as companies, you know, there's bound to be some innovation that comes out of it. And I think that a greater sense of remote workspaces and working virtually is one of those things that are likely here to stay with applications like Zoom. What do you think is likely to come out of this that's maybe a positive?
Well, I know with Compass, they have been very proactive from day one, really, and launched a whole new suite of virtual agent services for us to kind of bridge that gap and help us, you know, figure out, okay, here's what I used to do. How am I going to do that now that I can't, you know, go in the office or I'm not with my clients in person? And they put together a whole suite of about 10 different things for us to automatically jump on and start using to bring our business up to speed pretty quickly. And I think a lot of people are obviously trying to work that way, figure that way out. For some people, it takes a little bit longer. It just depends on how big your organization is and what you're doing. I think right now in Texas, we're waiting for this afternoon. The governor is supposed to come on at about 2:30 this afternoon and do a news conference and really talk about how Texas is going to open up from here, what the timing will be, and different levels, and really, you know, getting everybody back to work. So we're all kind of waiting to see about that. You know, at the same time, I think your company has to decide what it's comfortable doing. My husband's company is kind of on the same lines as, you know, JP Morgan and some others that have said, we're not in a rush to get back. We're going to figure it out. There is something to being in the office and teamwork and coming in. I know our team was in the office every day. So you miss a little bit of that, but we've got to compensate for it and make up the difference in other ways.
Yeah, that's right. I know there are some companies like, you know, JP Morgan and others in the financial services sector that, you know, certain groups within those organizations have been encouraged to come to work because, you know, people, you know, who are traders and, you know, working together, and there's a lot of, you know, sharing information in real time, not just on a screen. So, you know, a lot of those companies are those that continue to work together. But I know that largely, you know, they're going virtual, you know, for the longer term. So, what do you think is likely to happen to our business as a result of this, in terms of, you know, new listings, but also contract volume and closings? I mean, do you think we're going to basically pick back up from where we left off, you know, before that dip in inventory and closing volume, or do you think it's likely to increase because of increased buyer interest, pent-up demand, or do you think that sellers are going to have to reduce their expectations and we're looking at softening prices from this point forward?
That's a really good question. Um, and we get a lot of those same questions from our clients, because I have talked with buyers on Friday that said, should we just wait? Should we just wait till June, July? Prices are going to come down. Maybe we'll get a better deal. Let's hang on for a little while and see what happens in the market. We have sellers that are saying, I'm not discounting my price, so I'm not rushing to get it back out there. I'm going to wait till the market recovers. There's a lot of unknowns in talking with our clients, and just, for our buyers right now, it's interest rates are great. We got to take advantage of what's out there. What we're seeing is there probably will be some pent up demand from buyers, and people that have been kind of put on hold right now. But overall, I think our market here will gradually pick back up. I don't think it's going to be somebody turns the light on and everything's just back to normal. And there'll probably be some bumps and ups and downs along the way. But I think our market overall will probably, by this fall, maybe December-ish, everything holds. We should be finishing out at a relatively good place, considering where we were headed at the beginning of the year.
Well, that makes sense. I tend to agree with you, especially given the stimulus that the Fed put in place. And I tend to think that we're going to see greater activity than people anticipate the second half of the year, even in the face of the presidential election. And that's based on the pent-up demand that we have as a result of people not being able to do anything, in sort of March and now April, and looks like at least half of May. Assuming that the state here in New York is able to open back up May 15th as it's currently forecast, I think that June and July are likely to be some of the busiest June and Julys on record. And that's, again, because it's an exogenous event, right? The last recession that we saw in 2008, it really started with housing and the credit markets. Yeah. And this is really broad-based. It's affecting everything because, all sectors are shut down, right? From, the Ford plant to GM, even Tesla was affected. They had to pivot and start making ventilators. So everything, everyone, everywhere is equally affected by this and the shutdown. So once things pick back up, I'm optimistic that the next 6 to 12 months will follow suit, because the stimulus was coordinated not just within the United States but around the world. And so you saw these central banks come together and issue record-breaking stimulus, but not only the level of the stimulus, but also the time that it took to roll that out. And then it increased as they realized the extent of the economic fallout from it. So, the opportunities are those that are happening right now that you're going to see come in the form of closings anytime between, say, June and August, depending on what market you're in. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, we're just kind of predicting that our spring market is just shifting into a later time during the year. Right. And I listened to a really interesting town hall, I guess, meeting or conversation with Mark Cuban this past Friday, talking about his perspective.
President Cuban?
Yeah, President Cuban. Talking about what what his view of the impact to business in Dallas was, and, his companies and the Mavericks and, all of that going on. And, his perspective was really, we can flip the lights back on. We can, flip the sign from closed to open. It doesn't mean that people are going to rush back in the door. So the smart companies right now are figuring out, how can we do what we do for our customers in a better way, in a different way, in a way that makes them feel comfortable, in a way that makes them want to come back through the door. And he said a lot of these small companies that think they're just going to flip the light on and, be ready to go may struggle a bit unless they take the time up front to figure out what that difference means for their business right now, and figure out how they're going to carry forward and serve their clients in a better way once things do start to resume, and make sure that they're customers want to come back.
Yeah. So we do have one question from a viewer by the name of Michael Delahanty, and he asked if an investor is looking to purchase in Dallas. Janelle, do you recommend luxury? Something like the Ritz, or wherever a friend of ours recently purchased. Multifamily, meaning say 2 to 3 family, a smaller scale multifamily, or mid-level single-family type of properties?
Probably your best rate of return, and the investors we have a couple investors right now we're working with, selling properties in California, coming here and doing 1031s. They're finding the best rate of return is in that mid-level, but multifamily on a slightly larger scale. You're talking groups of fourplexes, and I can purchase, 4 of them at the same time. And looking really toward the more affordable rental rates. You've got a lot of people in that band that need a place to live, that need to find someplace they can afford, and they're usually very loyal. They will stay there forever, and they will take care of the property like they own it because they love where they live. And so there's a lot of pros to finding properties in that niche, and your population of people that want to rent it is also a lot greater. So we found a few sweet spots around the Dallas area for that. Even a couple over in the Fort Worth area by the TCU campus. It's all based on business and where people work. But that's primarily where we've kind of sent our investor groups. I mean, you can obviously go buy something at the Ritz or Museum Tower or wherever. It's fabulous, but your rental pool is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And, you've got to deal with a lot of different issues there.
Yeah. So it sounds like what I'm taking from that, Janelle, is that if you're an investor, you want to be able to diversify, and you want to be able to have a broad set of prospective tenants, and with those tenants, you want stability, and you want someone who is not only going to qualify, but you want somebody who's likely to stay there for a longer period of time, so as not to have the turnover and the maintenance that comes with it. Between each tenant, you prefer to have somebody stay there for, say, 3 or more years rather than somebody who's going to be there for a year or 2 and move on, right?
Absolutely. And we had that's primarily, that just increases your cash flow. It increases what you've got to spend to hold on to your decreases what you got to spend to hold on to it. And anytime you're flipping the property, you got to come in and put all new everything and paint and carpet and get it back up to rentability. And so, the stability there is key when you're talking about cash flow and maintenance and having, somebody there to help you manage the property, unless you want to do it yourself, which is a different undertaking. It's a huge factor in that.
Yeah. And it sounds like, you're a great person to advise on that, given that's kind of how you got your start in the business, right?
It's really fun. It's different than helping somebody find the home of their dreams. Obviously, that's a different model. But at the same time, it can be a lot of fun in helping somebody find an investment like that can help them then go buy the home of their dreams and live in it. So it's all part of the same equation, just a different piece. And it's actually a lot of fun. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Awesome. Janelle Rawlston, everybody at Compass in Dallas. Janelle, thanks so much for taking your time out to talk with us today, and we appreciate your insight as always. I will, of course, put your contact details in the comments on Facebook so that anyone who wants to get in touch with you directly can do so. I encourage everybody who's watching to like Rubin Team on Facebook and our business page so you can get alerted to future Rubin specials. I'm Josh Rubin in New York with Douglas Elliman. Thanks so much for joining us.